All right, man. So there's a pretty crazy trend right now going on over in China. And what's going on in China, it appears, is Xi Jinping is really starting to grab a stranglehold of all parts of life. Every single thing. He's now targeting billionaires and rich people, which I personally believe he's doing because they have a lot of power, potential plutocrats, and he doesn't want them to have power. He wants to consolidate every single ounce of power to himself. So he is incredibly, authoritarian. Obviously, you can't criticize him, otherwise you'll be jailed, or privileges will be taken away, or you'll be beat up, or you'll be censored on social media. So it's obviously just the dictatorship there essentially. They had a better system before him where it seemed like they would have at least rotating leaders, but he said, fuck all that, I'm gonna be God. That's essentially what he's doing. Obviously, ever since Mao died, he was horrible. Obviously, he's killed 50 million through, famines. And so their economy exploded after Deng Xiaoping came into power, and they started to open up their economy, and they started to go in more market oriented. They kept the faux image of socialist. It wasn't socialist at all, and they fucking exploded. It was 10% GDP increase. I don't know if it was every 10 years or every year. It was insane how massive it was. So hundreds of millions were pulled out of poverty as a result of this. And it seems that that Xi Jinping is not really. He's trying to do something different now because I think the economic gains are slowing. So he's really getting paranoid and really trying to crank down on everything. So here's just another example of this bigger trend. It says Chinese teens vent at new gaming limits as investors weigh impact on industry. Young Chinese gamers took to social media to express their outrage at new rules that limit their gaming time to just 3 hours per week. Holy smokes. While investors fretted about the long-term impact on the industry. Authorities argue the restrictions are necessary to stop growing gaming addiction, and the People's Daily, the ruling Communist Party's official newspaper, said the government had to be ruthless as online games impair normal study life and the physical and mental health of teens. The curbs are part of Beijing's efforts to promote the primacy of socialism and strengthen controls over society it now views as having become too lax after years of laissez-faire growth for the tech sector and other industries. Young gamers were, however, angry. It is a group of grandfathers and uncles who make these rules and regulations. Have you ever played games? Do you understand that the best age for esports players is in their teens? Said one comment on China's Twitter Weibo. Sexual consent at 14. At 16, you can go out to work, but you have to be 18 to play games. This is really a joke. And then there are some gaming companies, that are getting a little bit worried. Obviously, the issue of gaming addiction is a very real one. Obviously, it has its negatives. But what we're seeing here is a bigger trend of Xi Jinping really trying to get a chokehold on society in every way. I think this is going to end up backfiring because I simply think that people are going to revolt against him eventually. Because as you continue to piss off different pockets of society, billionaires obviously have a lot of power. So you have, the billionaire class, the rich people, and then you now are pissing off gamers, and they're pissing off parents who are pissed that he's putting Xi Jinping thought in third grade classrooms. I just do think that eventually he's going to piss off enough people who are going to say, fuck you, and eventually he will probably be removed. I mean, there's just too much pressure, and a lot of people think that the Politburo is the one who's really the one running the show, but in reality, these countries like China and Russia, the Politburo is controlled by Putin or Xi Jinping. No, that's not true. They knock out all their political opponents, and they make it so that the Politburo is just a rubber stamp for whatever they want to do. So 3 hours of gaming per week is extremely radical, radically low amount. But the authoritarian nature of this kind of thing is definitely pretty crazy. Obviously, there isn't really any freedom in China to really do almost anything. Can't go Wikipedia, no YouTube. You can't look at a meme of Winnie the Pooh and Xi Jinping. Can't criticize any of the leaders. Can't do any of that stuff. So I think this is going to end up backfiring. He's getting very paranoid about his potential grasp on power is what it looks like to me. But I think that this is simply going to make it more likely for his downfall because you're just pissing off too many people, and it's just too brazenly an attempt at trying to stranglehold power to maintain your own power. So once that starts to get kind of obvious, people start to turn on you. And I bet you that one of the reasons why he's doing this is because he doesn't want them playing video games. He wants them to be learning about Xi Jinping thought. That's probably, what it is. So pretty crazy stuff going on over in China. They're becoming a lot more authoritarian as time is going on.